So we're doing law of sines. Okay, and law of sines is a technique for us to solve for triangles. So solving for triangles. Okay, and these don't have to be right triangles. Okay, they don't have to be right triangles anymore. They have to be one thing though, and that one thing is we have to know enough about it to use this rule. And there are certain criteria that we can use to use this rule. Now, if you guys remember in geometry, remember triangle congruence? We had S, 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 A, whoops, S, A, S. We had A, S, A. We had, what else was there? I feel like we have one more. We have HL, hypotenuse leg, for not congruent. We had AAA and ASS. ASS. Oh, we also had AAS, angle, side. Everything worked except AAA's and you saying the word but. Now, the reason why these work, because they don't just work because they told you it worked, it's because if you have 3 bits of information, you can solve for everything else about that triangle. And given these 3 bits of information, SSS, SAS, ASA, hypotenuse leg, or AAS, you were able to find out everything else about the triangle. Now, so far, we only worked on hypotenuse leg problems because they're right triangles. Now, today, we're going to work on angles that worked. So what works for law of sines? So law of sines work for ASA, AAS, and these 2 types of triangles. That's it. Okay. We also work for ASS triangles, but we'll talk about that a little bit as we get into it. Okay, here's my first example of a law of sines triangle. Okay? So we have the sides 32. We'll say 100. And we'll call the side 6. A, B, C. First question to you is solve the triangle. That's it. That means we have to use the information given to find out everything about this triangle. Now, as a reminder, how many sides do we have? We have 3 sides, as well as 3 angles. Looking at the problem, how many angles do we already know? We know 2. So we have to look for a third. How many sides do we already know? We only know 1. So we know 3 bits of information. We know 2 angles and a side. We can automatically solve this triangle. This is AAS, right? Angle, side. We can solve it using law of sines. But you know what? Instead of remembering it that way, I would like to show you this technique I teach kids to know if something is law of sines. And that's simply, do you have an angle-side pair? Do you have an angle and side pair? Now let's go ahead and label the rest of this using letters. Angle A, opposite of angle A is side A. Angle B, opposite of angle B is side little b. Angle C, opposite of that is side little c. So we can see our angles and side relationships. A to A, B to B, and C to C. Okay? So this is how we know to use law of sines. You have an angle side pair. If you have angle A, you have side A. This is a law of sines rule. Automatically, we can solve it using law of sines. If I give you a triangle that says SSS, so here's a side example, SSS, 5, 6, and let's say 4. Do you see any angles? There are no angle side pairs. Because I don't know any angle, I don't have an angle side pair. So again, when do we use law of sines? Law of sines. Big rule, angle side pair. Angle side pair. We know an angle side pair. So here is the law of sines. We're going to write out the two forms. The form goes sine of A over little a is always equal to sine of B over little b is always equal to sine of C over little c. Okay, our alternate form. Here's an alternate form. We're going to flip everything over. A over sine A is equal to B over sine B is equal to C over sine C. Now, you don't need to know A, B, C. You just need to know any two pairs. If you know A and B, great. If you know B and C, great. You can do A and C. So this is our rule. It's an interesting rule, and all you do now is plug in values. Now let's go ahead and talk about how we do this problem again. So for this problem up on top, I'm going to redraw it on the bottom here. A little more space to work with. We said that was going to be 32, 6, 100, B, C, A, little c, little b, and that's little a. The way we're going to use this is you're going to pick out your angle side pair first. Do we have an angle side pair? Yes. Please now use law of sines. Since we always know 3 bits of information, we always know 3. We already used up 2. We have 1 more bit of information left, which is 100. But is the 100 for A, B, or C? It's for B, right? So here's what we do. If I have the angle B, I'm going to go ahead and solve for side B. And the way we do that is we write out law of sines. Always write down what I don't know. First, what I want to solve. Okay, first thing we're going to do is write down what I want to solve for. I want to solve for B. I'm going to write that on top of the fraction sine of 100 because that's angle B is equal to what I know. I know the pair of A, 6 over sine of 32. This is A, and this is sine of A. If you look at our identity here, we're using these guys. B over sine B, A over sine A. The rest of it is us solving for B algebraically. How to get rid of a divide by sign of 100? We multiply both sides by 100, sine of 100. And we're left with B is equal to 6 sine of 100 over sine of 32. All this is calculator work now. So let's go ahead and take out a calculator. And we'll practice typing this in. I would recommend right now, if you have a calculator, go ahead and work with me on how to type this in. I'm going to type 6 times 100 sine on my cheap calculator. Then I'm going to hit equals. Then we're going to hit divide. by 32, oops, sine, and then hit equals again. This is how I would type it on my cheap calculator. If you have nice calculators, you can type it as you see it. So 6 times 100 sine equals, that's the top number, 5.9 is my top number, divide this by 32 sine equals. So B is equal to 11 point, rounding up, 11.2. Now we know that B is 11.2. B is now 11.2. Let's see, does that make any practical sense? If A is 6, hey, do you see how 32 is a small angle? That means 6 is a small side compared to 100 becoming 11.2. Bigger angle, bigger side, smaller angle, smaller side. So they, at least at a superficial level, this does look like the right answer. Okay, so we solve for 2 angles and 2 sides. Let's find the last bits of information. So the next one is, we have 3 angles inside a triangle. Since I have 2 of them already, we can find the third angle. All triangles add up to 180. So 100 plus 32 plus angle C should equal to 180. That means C should be 48. So let's write 48 here. So now we're on our way to solve for all the sides and all the angles of the triangle. We have all 3 angles now, don't we? So here's a hint. Once I have the angle, I can find its corresponding side. So let's go ahead and set up the law of sines for this problem. I've got some space here. You guys can write it wherever you want. I have some space. I'll write what I know or what I don't know. The thing about setting up law of sines, always write down what you don't know. What don't I know? I don't know C now, but I do know angle 48. So we write what I don't know first over the angle 48 is equal to, you could use B, but that could lead us to a round-off error. Use the one that we know for sure, 6 and 32. 6 over sine of 32. Looking at this problem, I'm solving for C, so I have to get rid of the sign. We did this before. Opposite of divide by sign is multiplying by sign. So you can automatically write this next step if you want. But you have to write this to receive credit on your test. If you do not write this, you will not receive any credit at all. You must show work. Okay, now it's calculator work. You can take out your calculator, and once you wrote that down, so I can see that you understand what you're plugging in your calculator, perfect. If you do not show work, I can't give you any credit for each of these problems. 6 times 48 sine equals, divided by 32 sine equals, I'm getting 8.4, rounding down. Go ahead and try this on your calculator. I'm going to do this again. 6 times 48 sine equals, divided by 32. Yep. Okay. I can't stress you guys have to try this on your calculator yourself. If not, it's not going to work for you. Every calculator is different. Everyone's calculator is different. That's why you want to make sure you get this right answer now. If you're not getting that answer, please tell me, and you can show me your calculator, and I can tell you exactly how to type it in. I know all your calculators, and they're all different, but if you let me see it, I can help you tell you how to type it in exactly. All right. So we have our side now, and our side is 8.4. So now not only do we know all 3 angles, 1, 2, 3, we also know all 3 sides, 1, 2, 3. So we solve for this triangle. Okay, let's go ahead and do another problem, very similar to this. You might say, Mr. Code, look, it took you so much work to do this. Honestly, you can do all these triangles solving in less than 4 minutes each. That's how fast you can do these problems. So let's give ourselves another problem. We'll call this 53 and 71, A, B, and C. And we're going to give us our side 8 here. So C is equal to 8. So right now, let's solve for the easy one. If I have two angles, right, I have two angles, what could the third one be? If you have your calculator, please type 180 and then minus those two angles and tell me what that third angle would be. You have $180, you spend 71, you spend 53. How much you have left?
$56.
I'm here 56. Thank you very much. That was really fast. 56. Cool, thank you. Now, this triangle that I drew isn't the best representation, right? Shouldn't this be the biggest angle? Sorry, biggest side, right? So this is just a rough draft. Don't freak out. We're just aware that this is my biggest side here. A is my biggest side, okay? All right, I'm gonna write some letters here. A, I don't know, and B, I don't know. Okay. All right, please, right now in your notes, circle your angle side pair. I want you guys to all see that angle side pair. Now we know it's law of sines. If you know it's law of sines, we know we're gonna write fractions. But the best thing to do is write down what you don't know on top of that fraction. So what don't I know? The B, A, or C? I don't know B or A. So you just have to pick when to start. As long as you have an angle inside, we can do the problem. So let's do A. A over sine of 71. I chose 71 because 71 is its corresponding angle to A, is equal to 8 over sine of 53, because that's my angle side pair. Now when you do this, you only have one variable, and we can solve it. Next move, you have to write this on your test to receive credit. If you write this, everything else is calculator work. So once you're here, go ahead and type this in your calculator. If you're not sure how I did that, I multiplied both sides by sine of 71 to both sides so that they would cancel out. Okay. If you guys have been keeping up with us, hopefully you have the answer to on your calculator already. 8 times 71 sine equals divided by 53 sine equals being 9.47. Rounding up, this is 9.5. You guys getting 9.5? Hopefully. Okay, let's do our next problem. Now that we solved for A, 9.5, let's solve for B. Okay, B over what? Remember, the goal is, here's the easiest. Remember, write down what you don't know. I don't know B. Okay, don't know B. What's a corresponding angle then? Corresponding angle is sine of 56. Do I have to write sine? Yes, this is called the law of sine. Is equal to 8 over sine of 53. How did I know to do that so quickly? It's the only side I knew. Angle side pair. You could use 9.5 and 71, but that will introduce round off error. And you know in IXL, if you mess up on decimal, it will burn you. Multiplying the sine over, B is equal to 8 sine of 56 over sine of 53. Calculator work. Sorry about that. Overexcited neighbors. We're divide that by 53 sine. Messed up. 8 times 56 sine equals, divide that by 53 sine. Did you guys get 8.30? Okay. So not only did we solve for our angles, which was the first thing we did, we went ahead and we were able to solve for the sides. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and use the alternate form in our next example. Okay. Let me pause for a moment and ask questions. Okay. So if I gave you a triangle, this time I'm going to be missing a side. We'll call this 12, 32, and 12, 32, and 14. Okay, 12, 32, 14. Okay, this is just a generic triangle. Don't believe that any side is really the same, that right length. It could be 14. Look, 14 is longer, right, than 12? Okay, this is an ASS triangle. So beware, be careful. I avoided the trick with this problem, so we're just going to solve it as it is. A, B, C. That means 14 is little a, 12 is little b, and little c we know nothing about. Okay, my first question for you is, do we have an angle side pair to solve this triangle? If we do, please write the letter of the pair we have in the chat, if you can. We know our A's, our B's, or our C's. Great, perfect, thank you. You guys all see it. We have an A. Law of sines, we can do it. Next thing we have to do is figure out what else I know. I know B, that means I must find angle B. So I asked you guys to write down what we don't know. You could write B on top, but that's not our rule. Looking up here, our rule, if I write B, I also have to write sine, okay? So going back down, I'm gonna write sine of B over 12 is equal to, so if you write the angle, you also have to write the word sine. That's our pattern. Angle, side, but the angles have a sign. Is equal to sine of what I do know, 32 over 14. I want you guys to make sure you see that pattern. The hint is write what you don't know on top, because I like variables on top. If you don't want to write it this way, fine. If you wrote this, 12 over sine of B is equal to 14 over sine of 32. You want to deal with a variable on the bottom? Yeah, you go ahead and do it. But you're probably just going to flip it anyways. So that's not waste time. Just go ahead and write it on top. All right, for this problem, we're going to get rid of the 12. Sine of B is equal to 12 sine of 32 over 14. Now, I want you to stop here. Do not do the next step, because the next step will be this. But I'm going to write this and shade it. B is equal to sine inverse of this whole fraction, 12 sine 32 over 14. I do not want you to write this on the test. Do not write this on the test. It's a waste of your time. Do not write this on the test. It is a waste of your time. The opposite of a sine is to inverse both sides. Okay, that's what it's supposed to do. But I don't want you guys to write this. I want you guys to stop here. Stop here. You show me that, you got work. Because it's so much easier to type it on the calculator to rewrite it. So we're not going to rewrite it. Let's go ahead and type it on the calculator. I'll show you guys why I don't want you guys to rewrite it. So we're going to type it like we did before. 12 times 32 sine equals divided by 14 equals. And you end up with this number 0.45. For sine and cosine, it better be a decimal number. Let me do this again. 12 times 32 sine equals divided by 14 equals. Perfectly fine. I can't get Pokemon right now. Okay. Maybe later. Okay, so here is my next step. On your calculator, just hit the inverse of this answer. And we're done. B, angle B is equal to 27.0. When you round to nearest 10, because I'm rounding, please write the 0.0. Don't just write 27, write 27.0. Okay, 27.0. So not only did we find the angle, hey, now we have two angles, we can find the third. Oh yeah, Izzy just came and showed me the Pokemon too. Okay, go. Close door. Okay, so let me do this again. On your calculator, if you need help, 12 times 32 sine equals, divide that by, oops, 12 times 32 sine equals, then divide that by 14. After I have this decimal number, I shift sign, I do my inverse, that gives me the 27. Okay, now that we have two angles, how do we find the third angle? And see, every step leads me to that next step. So now that we have the 27 and the 32, on a calculator, 180 minus 32 minus the 27, this will give us our, it's 59, 100, and 121.0, because it's a round off, 121.0. Okay. Are you guys okay with the one, how I got 121? The angles are 32, 27, the third angle, minus 180 gave me 121. And if I have my third angle, I can now find my third side. So remember, the goal is to write down what we don't know. Okay, so now that we have the angle 27, we were able to find out the angle 121. Now we're just missing the last part, the side, C. So let's set this up. We don't know C over sine of, we said 121 is equal to, again, let's go back to the exact pair that we know. We know 14 and 32. 14 over sine of 32. And this takes us back to our original problem, how we solved it. Just move the sign over. C is equal to 14 sine of 121 over sine of 32. And that's just a calculator answer. 14 times 121 sine equals, then divide that by 32 sine equals, and we're left with 27.38. Double check. 14 times 121 sine equals, divide that by 32 sine. Oh, darn it, it's a different answer now. 14 times 121 sine divided by 32 sine. Oh, darn it, it's 22. Got it wrong the first time. Luckily I double checked. Did you guys get 27 or 22?
22.
22? Cool, thank you. All right, I'm going to round down to 22.6. So we know all three sides and all three angles now. 22.6. Okay, so that's our examples of how to solve using law of sines. And that's it. That's that simple. Just got to practice a little bit so you guys can get faster. You want to get under like 4 or 5 minutes per problem.